Hello, boys and girls. So today we're starting area and perimeter. So you have done a little bit of this last year with Miss Matsdorf, but today we're going to review it, and it's going to get a little more complicated in fourth grade. So just to review, perimeter is the distance around a shape. So we use perimeter to measure things that we're trying to find when we're trying to do things in real life that create borders. So for example, let's say I wanted to put a fence around my garden or my yard. I would use perimeter to measure. So I would have to measure the outside of my garden, how many feet, how many inches, how many yards, whatever we're using to measure. I would go around the shape. Also, if I was trying to maybe put a border around my wall, like let's say, the border is a wallpaper, put a border around my wall in my house, I would need to measure how long. If I was trying to build some kind of pen for my dog, then I would need to figure out my perimeter of how big it's going to be. So when we figure out perimeter, there's a formula. Now I'm going to put a capital P here. Okay, so I'm going to put a capital P. P is equal to perimeter. And what we can do when we're finding perimeter is we can add up all the sides. So when we have a shape here, we have the length of the shape and we have the width of the shape, okay? So we can just add the length plus the width plus the length plus the width. And you'll notice I'm doing like a little cursive L instead of a regular L, because a regular L can be confused with a 1. So it's easier for me to do with a variable here a cursive L. So length plus width plus length plus width. And if there's more than 4 sides, it just keeps adding all the sides. So really all you're doing is adding the sides. So that would be, so if we're looking at this rectangle, let's just say I'm going to put some numbers here. Let's just say that this is 6 feet. Now, obviously, it's not really 6 feet, but when we draw things, we're drawing things smaller to fit on our paper. So 6 feet, my length is 6 feet, and we'll say that my width is 1 foot. Okay, so when you see a drawing, a lot of times, even like architects or anybody who's doing this for a living, or anybody who's drawing out a plan, they're not going to label all the sides of your square. So you have to kind of figure out what the other 2 sides are. Now, if this is a rectangle, what do we know about a rectangle? That this side of the rectangle, the one I just labeled right here, is the same as the other side. So if this is 6 feet, what is this going to be? That's right. It's going to be 6 feet. So I'm going to label the 6 feet just so we can see it. So if this is 1 foot, then what's this going to be? You're right. It's going to be 1 foot. Okay. So now to figure out the area and perimeter, all I have to do is add up those sides. So I'm literally just doing 6 plus 1 plus 6 plus 1. Now, to make things easier to add, what I would do is I would say 6 plus 6 is 12. And then 1 plus 1 is 2. 12. So 6 plus 6 is 12. And then 1 plus 1 equals 2, and then I would get 14. So that's what I would do in my head just to make it easier. Whatever works for you. So I know that the perimeter of this square is 14 feet. So when we label it, we would just label the number and feet, okay? A square formula can be a little different. So when we're trying to figure out the perimeter of a square, notice that the sides are a little different than a rectangle. The sides are all the same. Now, you could certainly do length plus width plus length plus width with it. Hold on 1 second, boys and girls. My dog needs to go outside. Dog waits for no lesson. So, okay. So anyway, I was saying that a square is a little different than a rectangle. Now, you certainly can do length plus length plus width and get the same answer. But if you notice, all the sides of a square are the same length. Okay? So an easier formula that you can use for a square is you can do length times, or side, I'm sorry, that's side. I'm sorry, I had a little bit of a brain fart. Side times 4. So you could label, like, let's say we know that this is 3 inches. If this is 3 inches, all the sides are going to be 3 inches. So we could just do 3 times 4, and then we know that equals 12. So the perimeter for the square is 12 inches. Now, if I had done length plus width plus length plus width, I would just be doing 3 plus 3. Oops, I would just doing 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. I'm going to get the same answer, just makes it a little harder. So doing the side times 4 makes it just a little bit easier. Okay, for area. Area is now not the distance around an object, it's how we measure the inside of the object. So scenarios where we need to measure the inside of the object is, let's say I'm painting a wall, or I'm putting wallpaper up on a wall. I need to know how much paint or wallpaper I need to buy. So I need to know the space the wall has. I don't want to buy too much paint, or I don't want to buy too little paint, so I need to know. Let's say in my garden that I just fenced in, I need to put soil inside of it. So, or I just made a garden bed, I need to know how much soil. So if I'm trying to figure out how much soil to fill a garden, I need to measure the space that I'm going to be using, because on the bags at the store it says how much dirt is in there, and or how much soil is in there, and I need to know the distance around of the space inside, so I buy the right amount. Let's say I need to what's another good one? Let's say I need to, mostly if I'm trying to paint or something, let's say I'm trying to get carpet from inside my house. I need to know how big the room is that I want a carpet. So I need to know the length and the width of the room, so I know that the space. Let's say I'm trying to build a brick patio. I need to know how big the patio is going to be, so I know how much brick to buy. These are all great examples of how to fill area. Now, one big mistake people make is area. They think, oh, how much water you need to fill a pool. That's actually not area, that's volume, which you will learn next year in 5th grade. So anything where you have to fill something up, like a container or a tub or a pool, that's a volume. So area is a flat space. So it's something on the ground, or something flat, or a wall. Something that's not going to be like deep. So filling a container would be volume, not area. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions people make when they learn about area. So now let's just talk a little bit about the shapes that we've got going on. Oh, the formula. Let me talk about the formula. So the formula for area is length times width or you might see base times height, okay? So either one of these, depends on what you're doing. Some people write it as length times width or base times height, but it's the same thing, okay? So if I was looking at my shape here, this could be my length, the long side here, it could be my length, and the short side could be my width. If I'm looking at base times height, the short side could be my base, and going up could be height. So same thing. So area for a rectangular, let's try one. Let me put so I'm gonna do 2 inches times, let's see, make that 8 inches. I'm just making this up, obviously. So when you see area, again, you're not going to see all the sides, and you don't even need all the sides written out for this because you're only doing length times width. So it's actually more confusing to write your numbers all around versus in perimeter, it's a little easier. It's easier to visualize if you have the spaces all around because you're adding all those sides. But if you put the numbers on each side, you're going to think you have to use all those numbers, but you don't. You're just doing length times width. So here we're just doing, 8 times 2, and we get 16. Now, when we label this, we would say, so the area is equal. So I'm putting that in the inside because it's the inside of the space. I'm going to say 16 inches, but I'm going to say squared. Now, the biggest question I get is, why do I got to put that little 2? Well, you'll learn more about this in 5th grade, but when we talk about squared objects, a squared object is a square. So it's square. So what we're saying is that inside this box, actually let me erase this and move it so I can show you something. We're saying that inside this box that there's 2 boxes going this way and there's 8 going this way. You might have done a little bit of, and they're not perfect boxes because I didn't draw very good, but because this is not to scale, but pretend these are perfect little squares. There are 16 units inside of this square. Now, you did this in 3rd grade where you counted the units, but I'm going to get rid of this because I don't like that they're not perfect squares. They would be perfect squares if this drawing was accurate, but I just made up these numbers. It's not to scale. But in 4th grade, you kind of learn how to do it without the boxes. So we're just imagining the boxes. So it's kind of like they're pretend boxes inside. So what this means is that there are 16 of these boxes. So the area is 16 inches. So the box is only 1 inch long on each side. So the square is only 1 inch long on each side. 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. If I had drawn a area that had inches in, if I had said feet, each box, even though it's small, each box would be a foot around each side. So we say this is a square inch. You could say it's a square foot, square meter, whatever unit we're using. So that's what it means when we're filling these boxes with squares. That's what it means when you see the inches squared or feet squared. With the area of a square, again, you can do length times width again. You can absolutely do that. We've also seen a formula for side times side. Now, it's not side times 4 anymore because you're not doing all 4 sides. You're just doing 2 sides. So if this is 3 yards and this is 3 yards, you're just doing 3 times 3. That's all. But that would have been the same if you had done, so the same number. So you can say side times side. You can also say length times width. It's not going to be wrong if you say length times width because you're going to get the same answer. So 3 times 3, this would be 9 yards squared. Okay? So I'm going to end this video because it's a little long. But those are the 2 examples. I'm going to give you a really simple practice today, and I'm only going to give you a couple of each just to see how you guys do. Now, here's the key thing. On your assignment today, I want you to make sure you put the label. So you're going to have to type in the answer, like what if it's 6 feet or whatever. But I want, if it's 6 feet and it's the area, you have to have the, so I want to see the feet squared. If it's just perimeter, I just need to see feet. So make sure your units are properly done. So perimeter, feet, area, feet squared, or yard squared, or whatever the unit is, okay? So I just want to make sure that you guys are labeling these correctly. I'm only going to give you a few and see how you do, okay? All right, good luck.